had a 3-second delay. So, boom, here we go. So you got your facts?
I do.
You ready?
I always am ready.
Always in ready? Okay, check. Mic check,
Is this
mic
thing
check,
on?
mic check. This is a mic check. How we rep.
Turn
This
up
how we
my
coming.
snare. I
Turn
need
up.
snare. My
Was that enough snare for you?
what Eminem say?
Turn up my snare. Can't hear my snare. I have no snare.
Oh, cleaning out my closet. They don't know.
I have no snare.
Y'all don't know what that is.
Turn up my snare.
Y'all not real Eminem fans.
Turn up my snare in the headphones. I have no snare. All right, so welcome back to A Couple Facts, the podcast. We are in here. I go by the name of Mark.
I'm Shay.
And this is A Couple Facts, the podcast. This is the gang. This is the team. And,
gang. And the girls here.
And yeah, the little ladies here.
And so, today is a special day because why?
Child, I was about to ask what makes today special.
It's a very monumental day in history for us in our relationship.
Let's see, today
August
is
the 6th.
August the 6th. A monumental day, August the 6th?
Yes.
Child, I must have missed the memo because I ain't got that in my calendar. What's today? August 6th, a monumental day for us?
Yes.
Let's see. No, I was about to say this is episode 5, but this would be episode 6.
Facts. Oh, on the 6th. How cool is that?
Oh, yeah. Episode 6 on August 6th. That's why today's special.
Well, no. But today is special. I lied. I was capping. It's
That's
not
all you ever do.
All I do is lie.
All she does is cap on all facts. A couple facts.
Today is a special day because today should be the first video. No, I lied. The other video is going to be with
episode 5 is going to be the first video.
Yeah, episode 5, the video that you guys should have watched before audio. Now. It should be the fire audio. But every day moving forward, every podcast episode moving forward, we should have audio such as this.
Yeah, clap it up. That's big news.
Yeah, so our audio is going to be A1 forever. I don't know about our video. I mean, this is the video that you're going to get because this is the video that we have.
This is what we're serving.
This is the quality that we have, but it doesn't matter as long as our audio is good. What do you want?
Yeah, that little girl, that little lady is kind of upset right
What
now.
issue do you have with him?
Well, with this good audio, y'all can y'all hear her?
Hopefully not. It's supposed to noise cancel. Do we have noise canceling on? Turn up my snare.
What snare?
Wait, is my noise canceling on?
What noise cancel? I don't.
The green thing. It's on, isn't it?
Look like they all on.
Click it to make sure.
Everything's on.
But everything is lit up. Click the green thing. Yep.
Or the
red green. All right, now turn on your green. You're number 2. Okay.
Are you sure that's what we're supposed to do?
Yeah.
You sure that's noise canceling?
Positive.
What if it just mutes our mic?
It does. It wouldn't the red would mute the mic.
I guess.
I did this last time.
I don't remember none of them.
It doesn't make a drastic change, just so we're clear.
Okay. Well, all right. So if y'all do hear any animal noises in the background, just know that's little lady, our little dog, our little fur baby in the background. Just want a little attentions and lovings.
Yeah.
But all right, to the show. Today we're talking about kids, the youth today, and the effects that technology have on them or has on them.
So my topic, I guess what we could call this. Well,
yeah, what's going to be the title?
The facts that I have pulled up are smartphones and anxious kids, mental health issues, and the I generation. My facts are on my phone. His facts.
I have paper facts because I just look more intelligent.
Yeah, if I wasn't using my iPad as a viewfinder, I'd probably have my iPad, which would make me look pretty official. Because sometimes when you're on your phone, people might think that you're doing not
being unstudious.
In general, people may think
that you're drifting.
Plus, it's kind of contradictory because we're talking about kids and their phones, and then I'm sitting on mine. But
hence why I printed out.
That makes sense. Gotcha.
That would be very contradictory.
Yeah. Waste of paper though, but yeah, I got you. But we're not children, so there's that. All right, so let's talk about it. So I'm reading from the book.
You know, that's my hashtag that I use when I post.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
No, I didn't, because I don't want to look at your hashtags. I love that for you,
though. You don't look at anything I post.
I don't. I don't.
What's new?
Well, I low-key quit social media, so there's that. Okay, so Lakeside Behavioral Health System, lakesidebhs.com. There's some kind of, report and such that has taken place that they've done, talking about children and preteens and teenagers and mental health and things of the sort. A 2015 report from the Pew Research Center found that 24% of teenagers ages 13 to 17 say they're online almost constantly, and that 73% have a smartphone or access to one. This generation communicates more, with text and pictures and those types of things. Whereas back in our day, we had to use digital cameras, and the first
Yeah.
iPhone didn't even. It took photos, but you couldn't send them. You couldn't send media. It's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
Um, Anywho, also, we have information on how we're on the brink of the worst mental health crisis in decades,
Mm.
and much of the deterioration can be traced to cell phones. I have other data talking about Gen Zers and how they are participating in faceless communication because, I was thinking,
Faceless
yeah.
communication.
So I was thinking, like,
I guess that's text messaging and
well, it's kinda like, remember when you were 12 or 13, let's talk 13 to 17. When you were a
okay.
teenager, you probably, especially at 13, went outside in the
And
neighborhood
we
and played.
played. Yes.
Okay, well,
Yes.
that's how you had to connect with your friends, and you wanted to. "Hey, it's such
Yeah.
and
That's the
such,"
only way because phones weren't
a
like
factor. Nobody cared.
accessible to everybody, especially not the children.
Right. "Hey, it's such and such. Can such and such come out to play?" And
You
then you
knock on their
played,
door,
and
come
then you ran
outside.
the
Yeah.
streets and all that. Well,
Yes.
now, if you wanna stay in contact with your friend or cousin, aunt, uncle, whomever, especially kids, all you have to do is text and say, what are
Whatever.
you doing? Or send a screenshot, send a picture, send a TikTok to look at, or whatever the case is.
Yes.
So they are categorizing, this upcoming generation, the Gen Zers, I guess,
Hmm.
as as participating or having faceless communication, talking about how the cell phone usage is truly an addiction because addiction is addiction. They're spending less time outdoors, which is what we talked about.
Yeah.
Disenfranchised from parents, which I could go on and on and on about that. I even read a book about it. 30% of teens
You wrote
believe.
a book about it.
I read a book about
Oh, I was about to say you ain't write no book. That's cap. You don't get on here
30%
capping like
of
that.
teens believe their parents know a little or nothing about what social media apps and sites they use. A lot of kids have a regular Instagram and then they
A
have
burner.
a burner Instagram.
Like what
So
do they call that? Finsta. They call
a
that a
Finsta,
finsta. They
like
call
a
it
fake
finsta. Fake
Instagram,
Instagram.
saying that they're socially disabled. They're receiving less sleep, 50%. 10 average teen needs between 8 to 10 hours of sleep, much like adults. Adults might need like a little less, but for the most part, it's around the same amount. And yet 57% more teens were sleep deprived in 2015 than in 1991 before the advent of smartphones. In fact, between 2012 and 2015, 22% of teens failed to get even 7 hours of sleep per night. Why? Many of them are on their smartphones, stimulating their brains, their screen light suppressing the hormone melatonin,
Uh
which
huh.
supports
I
sleep.
read that. Yep.
Depression and suicide rates are up, and I guess I won't have to go all into detail about that. And yeah, that's pretty much
I'm about to
it's
say you about to spill all the facts, ain't it?
yeah,
You
that's
about
what
to,
I have.
you about
And
to
it has a
spill.
list of what parents can do. And what's interesting is, so we're kind of talking about this topic, especially like as a teacher. I know that you find it a little difficult. Now
They're
for
on it in
for
class
me,
all day.
I do counseling sessions with kids and I do one-on-one. I can do groups, but I don't want to. And I think that the powers that be want that to take place more.
What groups?
Yeah, as like a last resort, but like they want it to take place. I'd rather not because I really just like the individual session.
You have
So
more control like that one to one.
yeah, and I get to talk, and people, I get to have the kids can talk to me about what they really want to talk to me about. This generation is less vulnerable per the book that I read, and while they do demonstrate, some vulnerability in groups, I feel like they demonstrate the most vulnerability individually, one on one, with child to adult. So that's that. And anyway, what's interesting is that while you struggle as a teacher trying to maintain that, in my sessions, I have
Well, don't nobody
normalized.
say I struggle. Ain't nobody said I
Well,
struggle with it. I mean, because if you want to be on your phone, if you want to fail, then be my guest to
facts.
fail and
I got you. But
yeah.
I have my students to drop their phones at the door in this little tray thing, and I put mine in there too. But
It's easy for one or two students to
yes,
do that.
and for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, or some stay for like an hour, but they're not on their phone the whole time. It's also easier because in my office, the office that I have in mind, they we don't really have good service and stuff. In the whole school, you don't really have good service. I don't know
Mm.
what they made that school out of, and it's not in the middle of nowhere, but I have them drop their phones because I just feel like if I wanted to look at a kid on their phone all day, I would be a teacher or I would do something else. So that's not a vibe for me. But it's increasingly the point of the story is it's becoming increasingly difficult to kind of help and manage and intervene whenever kids are on their phones. Our 13-year-old niece was here for the summer. She just left, so she was here from May to August, and that's always an interesting time for sure. Anyway, those are my facts. What facts do you have?
All right, cool. So, talking about kids and technology. All right, so let me start off with this. Do you know how much screen time is recommended for? All right, so they have how much screen time is recommended by age group. Um, it's great. All right, so how do you know how much screen time a child under 2 years old should have? It's
Under
crazy
2.
that they even have
Under 2.
under 2 years old. How much screen time should they have? Because they have you'll see babies and their parents will
I'd say
just give
less
them the
than an hour.
phone. It's
I
not supposed to have any screen time.
Okay.
So
I would say
babies
I
up
was
to
gonna
two
say
years old,
less.
you're not supposed to have any screen time. And you see parents just give their kids their phone. Like no matter how like kids are born with phones in their hands these
Some
days.
kids get phones and iPads and stuff at for Christmas.
At 3 years old, 4 years
Mhm.
old, that's crazy.
Mhm.
All right, so from 2 to 5 years old, the recommendation?
Probably what I just said.
No more than 1 hour.
Yeah.
And 5 to 17 years old, they grouped all them together. So from basically in grade school, from first grade all the way through high
Probably
school,
3 hours.
no more than 2 hours.
From 5 all the way
From
till
5 all the way to 17.
wow.
Up in high school, you're not supposed to have more than 2 hours. And that's not including homework or anything. And screen time, this is all including cell phones, laptops, computer games, TV time, watching TV, watching YouTube, all of that. All of that's considered screen time. Um, let's see. Elementary students who spend more than 2 hours per day watching TV, playing video games, using computers, using smartphones, they're more likely to have emotional, social, and attention problems, like you said.
Mhm.
They report significantly more
Mhm.
mental health symptoms, increased psychological distress, more suicidal ideation, increased risk of depression, and these risks increase as screen time increases. So it's directly related to screen time with all these mental health issues. The more time they spend um, playing these video games or playing, on Facebook, scrolling TikTok. The more often they do that, the more time they spend doing that, the more issues they're going to have. Studies have shown that too many gadgets, too much gadget, or too much screen time may negatively affect a child's brain on its functioning, causing attention deficit, cognitive delays, impaired learning, increased impulsivity, and decreased ability to self-regulation. So let's
To
break that down.
self-regulate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't control yourself. That increased impulsivity, whatever
And
you
all of
want it
those are
right
the
there.
things that I tackle in my counseling sessions.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
take
Impulsivity, hyperactivity, inattention,
attention deficit.
self-regulation, coping skills, all of that.
What's cognitive delays? Is that
That's like
because it says cognitive delays and impaired
that's like
learning?
a delay in cognition. So
All right, so the basis of my question what's cognition?
No, like
What's
you
cognitive? Is
like
that
thinking,
thinking?
yes.
Okay, critical thinking.
I
Okay,
know you know that, not critical thinking, just thinking.
okay. So so they're it's basically saying they're dumb. It's dumbing them down. They
It's co
can't think. They can't think critically. They can't think normally. I mean,
a
if it's
delay in
they're
cognition, yes.
delayed, impaired. I mean, impaired learning. I mean, we see that in the classroom. You can't pick things up, and let's see, increase impulsivity. That just means they do stuff
Without thinking
without
about the
thinking because they
consequences.
can't think because they're cognitively delayed.
You might be onto something.
Let's see what else. Smartphones before bedtime disrupt sleep patterns by
Facts.
suppressing secretion of melatonin.
Yeah.
So just all right. So I teach that in my health class. One of the effects that we talk about with smartphones is your grades are going to start declining because you're going to be up late at night on your phone, or you're not going to be able to sleep. Then the next day you're going to be sleepy. You're going to be sleeping in class. If you're not on your phone, you're going to be sleeping in class, You're not going to be paying attention, so your grades are going to drop. So that's one of the things that kind of tie that into. A study in 2018 indicates that children who spent more than 2 hours a day on screen time activities scored lower on language and thinking tests. And some children with more than 7 hours a day experienced thinning of the brain cortex.
I have a kid.
And for those who don't know, the cortex is used for critical thinking and reasoning.
I have a kid who goes home, plays Fortnite, and various other games. They get on TikTok.
Yeah.
They're 7 or 8, by the way, and then they stay up all night, like 5, 6, 7, 8, like all night, like into the wee hours of the morning, and then they come to school, and then guess what all day? Guess what they're doing all day?
Sleep.
All day. It's
He sleep?
mind blowing to me.
They're asleep?
Yeah, so much so that I try to go get them, and the teacher will be trying to wake him up, like, "Come on, such and such, get up," and like really have to go in, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Because by the time I already know this, by the time he like wakes up and is ready to do his session
Yeah.
with me, like I have other like I can't spend my
Because
whole.
he's still trying to wake
It's
up.
too much time spent.
Yeah.
It's purposeless basically
Yeah.
at that point. But it's wild to me. Wild to
I
me.
feel like I had a student like that because they would go to sleep. I mean, I would just go to sleep. I mean, because then the bell would ring.
But
That would be the end of class, and they would still be there
he's
asleep. I'm
delayed
like,
in
bro, come
every
on, time to
area.
go.
Every area.
Yeah.
Like every single area. Speech. This, that, delayed in every single area. I don't know that we attribute it solely
So they
to.
sped.
Well, all my kids are sped.
Oh.
Duh. So it's crazy. Yeah. I feel like this is they have some of the worst scenarios in my, like, the ones that I think of
Mhm.
that I know hold true for this. It's kind of like the worst scenario, you know, it's evident that they're staying up and their electronic usage and all of that is impacting them. But there also are other children who have what we call internalized behaviors, and those are behaviors like anxiety.
Mhm.
So just the ones that you can't see by looking right at them. Some of
Yeah,
them like impulsivity,
but it's still
hyperactivity.
affecting
Yeah.
them.
So I think a lot of kids though are falling into that cat. I mean, it runs the gamut.
So
It's
basically, all these kids is
a lot of kids are
messed up.
struggling. Yeah.
Not a lot. Basically, all of them, ain't it?
No.
Because they all on their phone. Well, does it affect everybody? Like, because everybody's on their phone. Like everybody in the whole world. Like
I
all
would
the
venture to
kids in the
say that
whole
if they
world are
did
on
a
their phone.
study on everybody,
On
kids and
everybody.
adults, there probably are increased, you know,
There's
it,
definitely some changes from the '90s
yeah, that's what
to
I'm saying.
today's
I'd say we
people.
all are affected negatively in some
We're
way. That's
all
what I'm saying.
being dumbed down.
It's just different levels. There's levels
There's
to
levels to
this.
this.
So some might be having a little bit more anxiety. Some might have a lot more anxiety. Some may have struggles in social situations, maybe because they normally socialize on their phone. I think it just affects everybody, kids and adults, teenagers, everybody differently.
And I guess
And
it
who
depends
knows
on how much screen time each person
that too.
has also.
Yeah. But it's definitely interesting to be dealing with this generation. So after you do a study, do you have a is it like a what's the
The
hypothesis? That's
hypothesis
before?
comes before your
What's
study,
after?
the conclusion.
Okay, so is the conclusion that it is safe to assume that the reason why everybody's talking so badly about the Gen Zers behaviors in part is due to their media consumption, social media, their phones, their technology and all of that.
I don't think they're upset about the consumption of it. I think they're upset about the result that stems
But
from the
don't they go hand in
consumption.
hand?
Yeah, but I mean, if the
If I
kids were
cuss
on
you
their,
out and your feelings were hurt, what would you be upset about? Or what would
I would be upset about you cussing me out.
so isn't that the behavior?
That's interesting.
So
That's a
I
good
think they
point.
people
I give you round of applause for that. That's a good point.
I think people target is plain to see the behavior because that's what stresses people out the most. Like trying to deal with a child's negative behaviors, that's what brings about the most frustration.
Mhm.
Them using their phone doesn't necessarily impact them, like, because 'cause they're just on their phone. So we, I guess, get upset about or frustrated about the behavior, but really it should always be
The result.
the action, or, the
Well, I guess because you don't know for sure that's the reason why these things are like. I mean, yeah, but we don't just walk around life with, okay, let's point. All right, this is why you're like this. And, I mean, you just see the end result. You just see the kid sleeping in class. You don't see that. Oh, he spent 10 hours last night on Fortnite. I mean, it could be anything. You know, it could be his parents were arguing last night. He ain't getting no
well, this is
sleep.
day every Monday through Friday.
Well, his parents are in a domestic
Well,
violence
he doesn't
relationship.
have a two-parent household, so there's
Okay,
that.
well, maybe the air wasn't working last night and he ain't getting no sleep. We don't know. We just see the end result. So I
Until
mean,
you go digging for information. Similar
yeah,
to any behavior problem that a kid may display, if it's chronic and actually very problematic and not something that can be redirected easily, then the only thing left to do is go digging for the culprit, the root cause of the problem. Because targeting that kid, I think this is what I preach daily. Targeting the behavior is almost pointless if you're not targeting the root problem. So if you send the kid to alternative school because they fight every time they're upset, or not every time they're upset, they fight as a means to resolving conflict, and they get kicked out of school and sent to alternative school, and then they come back and they're doing the same thing, and it's just a repetitive cycle. Then targeting that actual behavior doesn't really change anything, because you're trying to give a consequence for that behavior, but you really need to figure out the root cause of it. Could
what's
be
leading them to that?
issues at home. It could be poor conflict resolution. Like, these are things we have to teach
Yeah,
kids.
they just may not
Yeah,
know
we have to teach
any other
kids
way to.
self-regulation, teach kids conflict resolution, like, I I guess I have a sweet spot for children, because I feel like it's in those years, especially those early years before they even become a teenager, when you really get to teach them and help them to develop the skill set that's going to turn them into a functioning, a, member of society, or just a functioning member just as an adult.
Mhm.
If you don't, teach conflict resolution skills until 17 years later, I mean, sure, you can learn them. But I'm just saying, like, the beauty in kids is that they're impressionable, and that we can teach them the skill sets that will set them up for success when they're children. Except lots of kids are, spending times on phones. And another
Mhm.
thing is, a lot of people do find it, I'd say, as parents, like people who are parents, putting a kid on the screen, especially if it's educational, that's normally like a rationale, or also because it allows them to do other things, like be able to go cook or clean or whatever the case is. Although,
I like educational like
or just
games
no
like that on the
educational, no, it
phone.
gives them the ability to go actually go clean or cook or like do something productive instead of having to entertain the child all day long. But
Oh, you're talking about the parent go cook and clean
yeah,
while just giving the kid the phone.
right, but I think that we don't really, we might do that when the kid's 3 or 8 or 9, and
Hmm.
maybe their behaviors are fine and that it doesn't impact them, but I guess you really don't really
You
know.
don't know until later in
Yeah.
life.
That's something. Well,
Yeah.
you don't know anything. I feel like you don't. Yeah, a lot of things are finalized when a kid gets older. Like, I feel like when they become an adult,
Hmm.
how they are as an adult, that's when you can really
Or
see.
then later in school, like when
Yeah.
they get older in like middle school, high school, and you see the effects and
I
things
guess I
that.
bring this up because I have I know one person whose child's behaviors are pretty good, like, for the most part, but they were noticing an increase when, as they were using the iPad more, because they don't
Hmm.
ever use the iPad really. As they were using it more, the kid was like 6 or something. They started to notice increased aggression, so they removed the iPad from learning. It was for learning, but they removed it because the kids homeschooled. Anyway, they removed the iPad from learning, and then they noticed their aggression going down.
Wow,
Yeah.
really?
So what I was going to
Well, what
say
was
is,
they watching on the iPad to make them aggressive?
I think the not
Because when you're on
having
an
no, no,
iPad, you
no.
just sitting there,
No, no,
and how
no.
that you
You're
must be getting mad because
no,
you're not winning
you're
the game
wrong.
or
You're
something.
all the way left.
How are you aggressive?
Are you
How's the
are you gonna
iPad make
listen?
you? I am.
The absence of the device, or the increased uses of the device, and I think the absence of the device is what was causing increased aggression.
Okay, I get that.
Yes,
Because you're mad at the world because you can't play your favorite game right
essentially,
now.
or whatever. Yeah, I think that's where it can. It's not like because you can play some aggressive games like boxing or fighting,
Mhm.
whatever, Mortal Kombat,
That's what
whatever.
that's what they say. Like in my generation, they said Grand Theft Auto and all that made people want to go shoot up schools and all
I don't know that that's true, but there are reports on kids being more aggressive when they can't be
that. We gotta
on.
we gotta do a show on that. Those video games and all that like make people
I will always say
shoot
no,
up
but
schools and wrestling games and boxing and fighting games like that. Does that have a
there's probably a report. Yeah,
or
we got to
like
go find the
a
data.
art versus does art imitate real life or real life imitate art? We gotta do something like that.
But there are studies about increased aggression.
Mhm.
So
So on to that point, what you was just talking about, more screen time makes it more difficult. Um, huh?
no, I'm just thinking like, so your 2 year old. I mean, not saying you're going to follow this, but I'm just saying like, in theory, our 2 year old should have no screen time.
Should have no screen time.
0 to 2.
0 to 2.
That means that.
And you want to know why? Here, all right. So I was about to go to this one fact, but I'm gonna go to this other fact.
Well, hold on. At when I used to work with this
Here, you can
age,
read my facts since my facts are
when I
better.
used to work with 2 to 5 year olds in our building, we didn't know there was no screen time at
As
all.
it shouldn't be at a
So that's
daycare.
7 or 8 to
At a
four
daycare, I
or
don't think it
five.
should. They shouldn't have any
Right.
screen time.
No screen time. But when they went home, lots of screen time.
Yeah,
But
because their parents don't want to deal
so
with
I
them or
guess
whatever.
why I guess what I'm saying is I bet you daycares and stuff do follow that. Like not in home daycares, they probably might turn on TV, but
Mhm.
like actual facilities and stuff who
I feel
have
like
to.
facilities turn on TVs too. Probably.
Not
Maybe
ours.
I feel like maybe during snack time or something, or
No.
right before
There wasn't a
nap time,
TV, a
maybe.
tablet in sight. Until they got to 5 and when they were about to go to kindergarten, once a week they would work on some kind of little uh learning thing that some kind of little test looking thing that they were
Mm-hmm.
kind of doing to prepare them for kindergarten. But that was only like a month long. But yeah,
Right.
no,
What about movies?
ours didn't watch them.
Like the Disney movies? None
Our
of
2 to
that.
5 year olds did. There's not a TV in for
Whew.
them to watch, and we have like six. We had like 6 classrooms. Anyway, I thought that was interesting, but this must be right. And we have to follow certain guidelines because we were accredited by different uh accreditation companies or whatever. But yeah, they followed that. But can you imagine not giving your 0 to 2 year old any screen
I
time?
could. I can't imagine that.
You can
I
imagine.
can imagine that.
You plan to
Yes.
not give your 2 year old 0 to 2 year old any screen time.
I don't plan on it. No, I don't plan
Well, I
on.
don't really know why they. I'm trying to think of a
Y-
good reason why they would.
Nobody,
Music
no child
boxes.
needs their
You
own
know the
phones.
music
Like,
boxes that like a music box and it says alphabets. You ever like little Einsteins? You ever heard of that? A lot of kids will have that. It's like the little CD player thing, and you put the it's like a music box, and it sings letters and stuff like that. I
yeah.
definitely could see things like that, but
You
I
mean the books that like?
well, no, it's like a
All right, so you talking about the thing that you rotate and then it spins
no,
and
I'm
plays
talking
a
about
little song and
like a
then it
music player, like
C
a
for
boom
cat.
box, and you put the little CD and the little tape in, and it sings and stuff.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like that's normal, but or okay, but
All right, so where you want to
because
go
it's
from
not
this? Because
screen
I got
time.
two facts to address, two things you said. Well, they're my last two facts, but
Go ahead, address your
whichever
facts.
one you want, which one you want to
Address
address?
your
The older
facts.
kids, or you want to go with the younger kids?
Give me young ones because they're
Young.
my
All right.
favorite.
So the reason why, all right, children under 2 years old and young children shouldn't have any screen time. Children learn by observing the world around them. That's how we learn. That's how we learn to interact with the world. How things are supposed to go. Small children they
Oh,
imitate the adults in their
I
life.
love that. I know
Screen
where you're
time
going.
creates a tunnel vision where they ignore everything around them and they're glued to the screen. So they're not really paying attention to like how things work.
Or
They won't know how things operate.
they're learning how things operate from
The screen for the
like social.
phone.
Like it's
But
kind of
they're
like
not
so.
really interacting though. Or they're
I'm.
not watching that
But what I'm saying is they
interaction.
may be like if your 2 year old. What? How old? 0 to 2.
It ain't say it just says children learn
If
by
your 4 year
I
old
think
is
they're talking about
watching,
like people in strollers because like sometimes when you see somebody pushing a stroller, they'll have the kid in the stroller on the phone or whatever. So they're not really watching the world around. They're not really paying attention
which
to
is what kids do.
anything. They're stuck into the screen and not looking at anything else.
But what I'm saying on the flip side is if with it, what if you're I've had 5-year-olds that I've worked with who watch their parents aren't keeping a close eye, and so they're watching inappropriate things. So what I'm saying is, or on the flip side, they are learning from adults, but instead they're learning from adults on a TV, which is not how real life works. It's kind of like social media.
Yeah.
Kids these days are learning, you know, about bodies and looking at bodies and hair and all kind of different stuff on social media, which is, through a very exaggerated,
Yeah,
unrealistic
yeah.
lens as
I,
opposed to
and that's another thing I taught while in school. Like that's causing a whole lot of mental issues, especially in young girls watching, looking at Instagram and
well, you know who
wanting
is like
this
the
imperfect.
highest in Instagram follower, who has like the highest Instagram follower account?
Hold on, I know this. Ooh,
Female for sure.
Kylie Jenner,
Yes. So can you imagine? I mean, I assume the people who follow her, it's probably younger
young
kids.
girls,
Can you
yeah,
imagine 350, 300, I don't know, let's say 250 million of them are
all wanting
young,
to be that image right
which
there on
is
the phone,
an
which
exaggerated, unrealistic image,
is unattainable.
unless you
So now they're
jump through
feeling
hoodles,
depressed and not feeling good about themselves
low
and how
self
they look.
confidence
Yeah,
because of
just
that.
yeah.
Especially with that family. That family never talks about what's real or fake. So
The
I feel like if people
Kardashians.
really, if they just said I mean, I get why who wants to, I guess, go running through the streets telling everybody that you didn't actually work out for this and you actually paid for, but whatever, I get it. Like, but imagine the 250, 300, 350 million
Million, yeah.
little girls who are like the lip filler, even like something as simple as a
That was
lip
a
filler
whole trend where like were they putting the cup around their mouth
to
and
make
sucking it in
no,
to make their lips
they had
swell?
devices. Like somebody made some kind of little device that poked them out, or like overlining. That's what she does a lot.
I was about
And
to say I still couldn't tell the difference. Like I didn't know what it was. I was they trying to get duck lips
your
or
bigger lips, yeah. So even something as simple as, I say simple because I guess it's not like life or death to get lip filler,
yeah, I
but
was about to
even
say they
something
give
as
lip
lip
filler.
filler could be, it's just crazy that the person who a lot of these young girls are looking to, even if they're not
That's
looking up
crazy.
to her.
Like they look up for like thicker lips. Like out of all the things, like instead of bigger boobs or a body like this, they want the lips.
Probably because that's the
They,
cheapest thing to
they
get
want the lips to look like
and the least invasive thing to get. But anywho, go ahead. I'm listening.
Um. Oh, the only other fact that was that one fact that I was going to address. The other thing, more screen time makes it more difficult to get them to do things that that aren't electronic, that isn't on the phone. It's hard to
Who
get them to
you telling?
participate in real life. Yeah, I know. We just experienced this over the summer. Um,
I don't know how. Here's, I want to say
like the
this,
the example they have, like it's hard to get them to play with toys. It's hard for them to get them to go outside and play, use their imagination, be creative.
and it's gonna be even harder if all the other kids are doing the exact same thing that they're doing, which is talking to them through,
Talking right back on the
yeah.
phone.
So one thing that I notice when my niece comes every summer, it's like pulling teeth trying to do anything, but I have to confiscate the phone, not in like a mean way.
Phone got to go everywhere. Phone got to
But the
go
phone has to be confiscated. Like if we're going out to eat, or it's hard to pull her away to go for a walk and whatever. Like I'm not going to talk about all the struggles that
a
we
drive in a
have.
car.
But something that I've noticed is that even for me, just for the 3 months that we have to endure, at the end, like after like a couple months, I'm like, this is actually exhausting.
To keep on having to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see why. I mean, in the perfect
Some parents
world,
just give on, yeah,
yes,
yeah, and give it to them.
yes, and then you don't have to deal. I mean, like really, I'm
You ain't
like,
got to deal with attitude.
nothing. The aggression and all that comes from not being able to have it, you don't have to
Yeah.
deal, because going like going for leaving the phone here to go on a walk. I mean, it's miserable. Like just the or
For them, for the
me
kid. Yeah.
going with her, like it's literally miserable when I feel like it should be a pleasant experience. And I am grateful for the times we could go.
Well, they
It,
mad because they can't get on. They got to get the snap score up.
I know. And we had so many conversations about sex and drugs and alcohol, and literally like real life conversations, which I'm grateful for. But the amount of time that these kids spend on the phone is actually wild
It's
to me. Yeah,
ridiculous.
It's actually very problematic. So I can see why there are increased problems and such.
You think that the older generation, like our generation, you think we're just looking back at the younger generation like, oh man, y'all always on these phones. When I was in high school, I was outside playing and we actually did participate in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
Or you think we're mad because we didn't have the opportunity to grow up with phones?
No.
Like you think
It
we're
sounds miserable.
hmm?
No, it sounds miserable.
It does because it seems like I don't know, they seem like they're growing up way quicker than they really need to be. Because
But
they're
like I was telling you before, I think we talked about this in a previous podcast. It's like a maturity, but an immaturity. It's like advanced, but immature.
yeah, it's like yeah, you
You have
know way too
access.
much, but you don't really know how to deal
You
with
have a lot of
stuff.
access to a lot of information, but most of that it's same
You don't
like
know what to do with it. You
it's
can't
same like
process it
sex or anything. I'm just bringing this up as a topic, but
because you're a freak.
but children, um, or anything, they cannot learn. They're not going to learn what all that entails and like healthy boundaries and all of the things that come along with that from another 13-year-old. You're only going to learn that from an adult or
Hmm.
somebody who, you know, has been around the
Experience.
block, who has spun the block a couple of times. You cannot learn anything about, you know, what the first time might be like or what proper steps to take and this and that and the
Yeah.
third, what how you do this and whatever from a peer.
Hmm.
So in the book that I was reading, that's kind of like what it was all about is that peers are what's the word that they're using? The peers are let's just use relating to other peers
Hmm.
whenever they really should be relating to adults because another peer can't teach them anything. I
Hmm.
stress this so much.
Yeah,
Another kid
cause
can't
yeah,
teach you
I
how to
be I be
self-regulate.
talking about that in class. Like, yeah,
You
you
can't learn
can't
conflict resolution. You can't learn anything from another
somebody
immature.
who's your age who probably
Right.
knows just about the same as you
Right.
do.
That's why we have adults.
Because that one kid is gonna try to tell you how
Excuse
things
me.
are, but they don't really know how things are themselves. So they're gonna be telling you things that are gonna be wrong, but you're gonna be listening to them, even though they're wrong. But you don't know that they're wrong
Yeah,
because you
because
don't know.
you're on your phone talking to them instead of having to interact with adults and your parents and stuff. And so now you're learning life from a peer rather than from someone who's actually experienced life and knows about life. Even if you just know a little bit, you still know more than a 12-year-old. I promise you. Even if, you know, at 30, you're still going to know more
Yeah,
about something at 12. And so they kind of know all these different things and they have access to all, they can Google
I was
anything.
about to say, but the thing is, they don't use the phones the right way. They use
Yeah,
the phone for social media and things like
they
that to talk
don't.
to each other.
It's so
Like
weird.
when Google, all the answers are right here, but
They don't look
they
for the
don't
facts.
Google, they don't look for facts, they don't look for the answers.
They don't.
They talk to their friends. That's it. They talk
That's
to their
it.
friends. They play games.
When I was talking to my niece about some important matter, I'm asking her questions and she's has no idea. And I'm like, if I had an access to the World Wide Web at my fingertips, I feel like I would be more knowledgeable about some of these topics.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
back in our day, we had to.
Especially stuff that affects you and like that are in your life. So you would probably look them up and see what's what.
Hmm. So, um, that's that on that. Anyway,
Mm. Oh, let's see.
your other fact
I know that's all my facts I got on kids and
is it
technology. Yeah, but I guess I don't know. I got some more interesting.
things to say?
Yeah,
Well, before you
thing.
say it, parents need not feel powerless. There are steps you can take to protect your children's mental and physical health, and to make digital media a more balanced part of their lives. Like respect, you can't demand it; you have to model it. So, kind of setting example around limiting phone use, social media, and technology in your home, in your car, in your life.
I was about to say, in order for you to get your kid to put down the phone, you got to put down the phone
Facts.
because
It has to be a standard. I can't be like, you need to get off your phone, and I'm like this
and
scroll.
yeah, taking selfies and scrolling.
Right.
Time to go eat. Go ahead, eat. Put your phone down.
And
Put
I'm
your
like
phone.
this,
And yeah, and
right.
I'm on my phone
So it has to be
scrolling.
a family
Yeah.
thing. Unplug and get outside. Sure, your team may object at first. This is so funny because I didn't read these steps before, like now,
Mhm.
but these are things that I try to do with her. Getting outside, you can make a real connection with the person they need most, which is you. Go for a hike, explore a new
That's
park.
crazy. Kids don't go outside no more.
That's what I was telling my niece. She was like, "Well, what do y'all do?" I'm like, "I my friends would come get me, or I would just go outside. Somebody's gonna come outside eventually if they see me out there. Basketball,
Yeah.
four wheelers,
Football,
skates,
tag,
rollerblades, skateboarding,
skate.
bikes.
Yep.
Bikes
Skates, bikes.
wasn't nowhere I couldn't go without my bike. I mean, like I could go the distance with my bike. All of that.
I had to stay in the neighborhood.
I mean, I'm saying, but like on my bike, I could go. I mean, I can't leave too far, but I'm just
And
saying.
like we even use our imagination. Like, all right, so I grew up in the apartments and we had our apartment complex had a tennis court, right? None of us played tennis, but we loved to play basketball. Like we used our imagination pretending that there was a basketball goal at the top of the gate. So we played basketball on the tennis court with no basketball hoop, no basket, no nothing to throw the bat. We all right, so we just pretended that the top of the gate was the goal. So that's how we played.
Mm,
And like it wasn't like it was this side of the gate to this side of the gate. This side of the gate was I don't know. It was weird. We really had to pretend to play basketball on a
glad
tennis
you were
court.
able to have that experience.
Yes, and like kids don't do that no more. We played
Kids don't
manhunt.
go outside.
We played manhunt
I don't know how you go all summer and you don't step foot outside
at
unless I
all.
drag you.
That's wild. Like the summertime is the time like you have the most time to get outside and play.
Tip number 3, facilitate FaceTime. Basically, if you find your kid is on their phone a lot, try to facilitate some activities
And
where
see
they
who
can.
they talking to.
Well, this is saying facilitate activities so they can have more face to face interaction. And then 4 is to set electronic curfews for the whole family, like no phones at dinner, charge all phones in parents' bedroom overnight. Everybody needs a break for mental health's sake. So, those are just some tips.
Oh, I got another tip.
What? Which is what?
You should get one of those. They came up with those lock
Child, you should turn
boxes.
off the Wi-Fi and don't pay the cell phone
Oh
bill.
yeah, yeah.
What's a lockbox?
The things that you put your cell phone inside of, you set the timer, and nobody can open up the box until the time is up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they came up with that invention. I want to say about 2 years ago.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like you can set it for an hour or 2 hours, 3 days.
Or no phones at all. Honestly, I can't fathom like
I feel like that would be something that I would use.
no
I
phones
would
at all or the
put it in the
lockbox.
lockbox.
Yeah, I'd probably go err on the side of no phone. I would love for them to have like a Wi-Fi only device
Yeah, yeah.
or
So you
like an
can just turn the
iPad
Wi-Fi off.
or something. You know what I'm saying?
But the iPad, I
So you can
mean,
FaceTime and you can do everything you want to do, but you can only do it for
within the house or
or with the and within a certain um amount of. It's so
well,
funny
don't
with
they have the things on? Isn't there a feature on the iPhone where like you can,
kind of control and stuff.
yeah, your screen time? Can't you turn your phone? Tell your phone to turn off
I don't know.
after you've reached a certain amount of screen time.
I don't know, but I think it's funny that kids are like, you know, so shocked by
Not having a phone.
or like what they can do instead of, but you really have to facilitate that. Like I can't just take a phone away and just think a kid's gonna, I'm like,
Find
okay,
something to
yeah.
do.
What about
They're lost. They're so clueless,
right?
so lost without a
You
phone.
want to watch, TV together, you want to watch a
No,
movie, go for
no,
a walk, you want to get in a
no,
pool, you
no.
want to go this or that. You know what I'm saying? But you really do have to kind of help them figure it out because
Because they ain't never
they don't
gonna.
know
They don't
now.
see, and
Those days are
that's
long
that.
gone.
That's that. What was it? That's that. Cognitive delay. They can't think of nothing to do. They can't think for themselves to figure out. Okay, well, I can't get on the phone. What else can I spend my time doing? They don't.
Yeah.
They're lost.
Yeah.
Lost in the
Yeah.
sauce. Whole
Yeah.
generation.
I would not, well, back to your question, I would not want to live this life because I feel like I got to make a lot of friends and do a lot of things and be, um, you know, active and all sorts of different things and go to camps and yeah, nobody had any phone until I had my first phone at 14, but that sucked. Like you couldn't do anything on it. I didn't have
Yeah,
minutes really.
they
Yeah.
weren't smartphones.
And not until college.
Only games they had on was
Snake.
they had Snake and Tetris, and I think that's about it.
But when I was like 18, 19, that's when
Oh, and Solitaire. Solitaire was on the phone.
yeah. That's when I got, like, an actual smartphone, and texting became, like, a real big, huge thing. Because all before I went to college, nobody was really texting like
Because you
that.
had to pay for each
Yeah, right,
text,
and you
and your
couldn't talk
phone bill
after
would
a
run
certain
up
time.
after 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
At first, it was 9 o'clock, and then I had Singular, which is now AT and T.
AT&T.
It's first it was 9 o'clock, but then it went. When they improved, it went down to seven
It did,
o'clock.
they did, and they did, yep,
Yep.
I remember. So,
Mhm.
yeah, those are just, some facts that we decided to look up.
Hold on,
We
I still got some more
You
juice.
do?
All right, let me ask you this before we get out of here. Do you think it's necessary for kids to have phones, to have their own
No,
phone in
no,
middle school
no,
and all that?
no. That's what I
And
was
do
gonna
you
say.
think they should have their phones in school?
No. My, when kids are like, well, so I don't think kids should have phones. I don't really see the point. But they're like, well, what if I gotta do this? I gotta
The
walk home
on,
from school. I got football, and I'm like, people have gone
the
decades
on
and
that's the
centuries.
only thing. That's the only thing people say. Oh well, my kid got to have a phone. What about an emergency? What
Folks
happens if
have
something?
gone centuries without.
Right.
So
We
no,
grew up without cell phones. Like the
and I never
same
had an emergency.
same
So
emergencies were going on.
I literally just would use the school phone, which I know they're probably happy that kids aren't always coming down to use the school phone. That's what I would do. Or you actually have to plan, like, hey, I'm gonna pick you up from school. Mom, I got track at after school until 5. Can you pick me up at 5? Like
Yeah,
you have to communicate daily.
that's all you have to do is tell you what time practice is going to be over, what time to be there,
Literally.
where to
And
be at.
and they and if they're halfway involved, they know like the coach and how to
Some adult is going to have a phone that you can use.
or where you're gonna
Or you could
be. If
go
you're at the
inside the
school, yeah,
school, you can
yeah,
go to the office.
yeah.
Or if you're at, I don't know, if you're at McDonald's, they have a phone you can use. You can
Mhm.
use McDonald's
Mhm.
phones. I used to work at
Even when I
McDonald's.
was
You can use their
driving,
phone.
and my curfew was at 11 o'clock, which shocker. People are shocked
You
by
was
that.
in the streets.
Yeah. Sometimes 12. I can finesse 12 o'clock.
Child,
Anything beyond
Natalie
that
would
is
never.
yeah. Anything beyond 12 is absolutely not. But I,
Child, anything after
all I have to
dark.
do is call when I get to the next. Like it ain't like I'm just out when I'm riding. I'm just going and sitting in the middle of nowhere. Like once I get to my destination, Mom, I'm here. I'm gonna be here. I'll call you when I'm leaving here, or I'll whatever.
Oh,
Like
so you called when you got to a new destination and stuff?
yeah. I mean, it
Oh.
ain't like I was just out in the middle of nowhere sitting there. It's like I'm going here
How old were you at this time?
when my curfew was at 11 or 12
Yeah.
when I started driving. So like 16 to
You was in high school?
yeah.
Ooh, wow. Oh.
But you have to
Whew.
understand I was doing literally zero things that were
Well. See,
inappropriate.
nobody would know that.
Who would know it?
Like your
My
parents.
mom know it because she knows me as a kid.
Well, I guess it is important to have that relationship with
She
your
know I'm not
child.
smoking, drinking, having sex,
Well,
speeding.
I don't know. That's how a lot of things start.
How do what
When
start?
smoking, drinking, having
When you have
sex.
freedom,
Yes, when you have
I
freedom.
and
That first time when you have
we will
freedom.
always disagree on
All right.
that.
So what happens when you go to college? When you've been cooped up
I
all the
still was
way
cooped
through
up.
high school, and when you go
I
away to
wasn't cooped up.
college,
That's the difference.
huh?
I was not cooped up.
Well, see, you wasn't cooped up, so you had like time to train and all that. So just in case you did slip up during that time, it could be regulated before you got out into the real world.
I was a square in high school and I went to college to still be a square.
But you had that training, you had that little bit of freedom. But I'm just
I
saying,
had lots of freedom.
the people who are cooped up when they go off to college, those are the ones who turn loose and
To
turn
be
up.
fair, I had people who I rode with and were friends with who had the same curfew as me, but they would be doing completely other different things than I was doing. So to be fair, they were might be taking a drink or smoking and whatever. But I hung out with people who played sports because we played sports, so there wasn't too much like you couldn't be like smoking weed and like
Yeah, I
drunk.
would say
And you
athletes
can't
they
come
do
back
have
drunk. You know what I'm saying?
athletes have a little bit more self control over things
Or
like
they
that
have to if they want to be an
if
athlete.
they want to be
Yeah.
somebody in the sports world.
Or just stay on the team without being drug tested and kicked off. So
I don't think they did drug tests back in my day.
I did drug tests and I always thought it was
In
a
high
waste of
school,
time. Yes. Random ones. Yeah.
like somebody from the county would come,
Yeah.
or somebody from
No,
the school,
so
your
I
coach.
don't know who came. Somebody, random people would come, pick out a few of us, drug test us, and then they do it again later on and keep on and on. Yep.
Dang,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I don't even hear about
Or
anybody failing drug tests and uneligible to play because they failed drug
well,
tests and
I
stuff
don't know
like
that
that.
anybody failed, but we had to do it randomly. I can't recall anybody failing. But anyway, um Yeah. So,
I was about to say maybe because you did track and field.
well, they were testing me
And
for basketball
oh,
when I
never
got
mind.
tested the
I
most.
don't know.
I don't think track and field cared. It was barely a.
Well, that should be the sport that they should care about.
It was barely even a activity. Like it was thrown together and team was raggedy. But anyway, I was thinking maybe they
How you gonna
test.
talk about your teammates
Well,
like
we
that?
were, and they'll all tell you.
Just because you ain't win nothing.
I did. I went to states. Don't do that. I went to states twice. The
God.
2 years that I played, that I did shot put. I did. Can you imagine? I went to the states and shot put. I actually think I went in discus, but I was trash. So that tells you that everybody had. I only went through like 70. What is it, feet or whatever meters? Only through like 70. It's not that far.
Better than me. Because I ain't played no sports.
But shot put, I threw about 28 feet. That take. I think 28 would take you to states back 15 years ago or whatever. Yeah, she had to threw further than me.
Better than me because I ain't played no sports. I was on the drill team though.
Whatever that is.
That's ROTC.
Oh, okay.
Marching.
We had
and all
that too. I think everybody has it.
I was marching, making those crisp corners, those right flanks. To the rear march. How about face?
Oh,
All of that.
wait.
That's me.
Lil Wayne, not Lil Wayne. Nicki Minaj has a song that says that
What,
about face. What does that mean?
Turn around.
She says attention
Attention.
about face.
About face and turn around.
What?
I
didn't
would
know.
get up and demonstrate.
Please don't. Thank you. Oh, that's the pro of having a video podcast, though.
That I can show
Yeah.
y'all. Let me. You know what? Let me just take.
All right.
Let
Let me turn this thing off.
Huh?
I hope we were in. I'm just hoping we were in what you call it, in focus the whole time, because I'm actually quite concerned. So I need you to sit down because we have to film another podcast, and you're doing too much.
All right, so attention about face. This couch is in my way, but yes, when we turn around.
Okay.
Yeah, my mic missing.
Okay. Close this thing out with my microphone.
All right, so yeah, that was the podcast. That was today's show. Kids and technology. I'm two mics shawty right now. Yeah, that's gonna be the end. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're gonna do this every Wednesday. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Tune in. A couple facts. Mark, Shay, gang, squad.
We'll see you guys next week.
And we out.